And we are live here too.
Cool.
So, I mean, we don't intentionally do political discussions, but it's kind of hard to ignore. And ironically, we were going to talk about trust today, and we'll get to that. But, you know, a big aspect of public trust today is, can we trust what we see and hear?
Yeah.
Especially in the media. And today, Mark Zuckerberg did a mea culpa on behalf of his firm, Facebook, that during the pandemic, the early years, 21, 22, he was pretty much, and his company, taking instructions from the Biden administration, direct from the White House and throughout his administration, on what to publish and what not to publish and what to pull and what to censor from the American people about the pandemic. And he went further. He went further and talked about how Facebook and /Instagram, they curated the information that went out about Hunter Biden's laptop, giving the narrative that it wasn't true, to echo the Democrat or the White House's position that it was Russian disinformation. And I guess, there's so many obvious ways to go with it. But the other issue is, like, how does it even help at this point? If anything, you want the truth to come to the light. I get it.
Sure.
But at the same time, now, with our suspicions validated, it's just going to accentuate every possible potentiality of conspiracy going forward.
Well, that's the problem
on everything.
Yeah, and that's where I see the problem is, right? So you have him come out, and not saying everybody suspected it, but there's one segment of the population suspected a lot of it was tailored information or tailored misinformation. Now it comes out like, yeah, we were being told what to put and not to put, and they were crafting the narrative, right? So take the average consumer of information. How are they supposed to discern what is factual or not anymore? And so it's going to be, what is there going to be truth anymore? Like, that's the question, right? What happens to truth?
We talked about this.
I mean, there's absolute truth we've talked about. But is there any type of truth anymore in journalism or just in general? I think people are going to, maybe it's a good thing. Let me flip it the other way. Maybe it now gets people to actually critically think, because the rug's been pulled out from under them. Like, I can't believe shit now, because what I thought was true, because everybody told me for 3 years, this is true. Someone comes out today and says, well, no, we were being told what to put out and what to tell you was true. So now maybe it's going to get people that weren't critically thinking and just believing to actually critically think and discern for themselves what they believe to be true.
What he wrote in that letter, and I think I'm fair to say this. What he wrote in that letter is so far from the American principles of democracy. It is more reflective of a communist or a socialist government style, or almost a dictatorship style, in terms of how to control the minds and the will of the masses.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it was. It was a mass psychosis experiment. I mean, that's what a lot of that was. I mean, when you think about it, like, and we fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. And the majority of the population fell for it.
Well, they also blended in through discussions today that the whole lab leak theory was suppressed by Facebook. The remediation techniques that the administration was putting out, the face masks and the degree of the face masking, the 6 feet of distance, the directional control in public places, and all that stuff. Facebook helped really carry the national narrative and fight against those who push back.
Right.
And we've had this discussion going back to the inception of this podcast, because I've always been a little bit leery of the power that Zuckerberg and Twitter, but the pre-Musk Twitter, how these firms had so much power within society. And I know they got there, and it's there should be a separation between government and capitalism. But here's an example, government and the private sector. But here's an example where the private sector completely in bed with the ruling class.
Yeah, and I will go back, and somewhat eat my words how we used to debate this topic. I mean, and you did have a concern that when is Facebook too powerful? And the fact that this just came out shows that maybe there is something to that statement that I didn't really get in the past. I'll give you that, like looking at it now. But no, it's true. When you think about it, Facebook's Web 3.0 or Web 2.0, whatever you want to call it. Like, it is
3.0 now.
Yeah, it is where people go for information. Like social media is where people go for information now, right? But they don't turn on the news and watch it. I mean, when you think about it, right?
No.
Most people, even people, 20 years older than us, are on Facebook or on social media, getting information, right? So that, in my mind, is one of the biggest sources of the information flow in our country. And now to have the CEO and the founder of that company say, we were being told what to put out there. Like, that's a scary thought.
Well, not only were they being told, but they capitulated. Like, it's like, for me, I don't expect it. I shouldn't expect it. I don't think any of us should. And I'm not really surprised that this administration or any political group tries to control the narrative of anything.
But the bigger question is, why did Zuckerberg bring it out right now?
I don't know.
Because to me, that's the bigger question, right? Like, why now?
Well, are they getting out in front of something else bigger that's coming?
That's what I think. Like that, I don't know any fact.
What's bigger than this?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we're in election season. Like, we're coming up on an election in what, 2.5 months? So the next 2.5 months are going to be fucking wild.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? Isn't it fascinating, actually, that they have fought so hard against every attempt to break up Facebook? There's been so many attempts made, going back, I want to say, even to the end of the Obama administration. Yeah. At times there was the rumbling, and Zuckerberg has appeared in front of Congress, both the Senate and the House. I can't tell you how many times.
A ton
of antitrust things. But they are almost serving up their own breakup, almost serving it up to them on a silver platter now by this admission.
Yeah.
You don't think there's going to be calls for antitrust, even from the Republicans?
I'm sure there's not call for that. And maybe, and again, like, I don't know, and this is pure speculation. Maybe it is Zuckerberg trying to do the right thing. Maybe he
says in the letter.
But maybe morality got to him, right? I mean, we talk about morality in different ways, but maybe it's like he realizes now, because again, people can have a change of heart, right?
Certainly.
Maybe he realizes now what is better for the American public is truth and transparency, which we haven't had in a long time.
Idea.
But we haven't had it in so long when you think about it, right? No matter what side's in power, there's never truth and transparency.
It's like, okay, I think we've kind of hinted at this, you and I have, and I think we've done it on panel shows too. I think when Mike Chirac's been here.
Yeah.
Is it Chirac?
Chirac.
Sorry, Mike. I always butcher that. My apologies. When Mike's been here, we've kind of dabbled into it. Since 2020, and if you even set the actual nuts and bolts of the pandemic to the right, set aside, just look at how we've taken instruction, almost our daily instruction, from our government more than any time in our lifetime history. Right. We are taking, because initially it was done by it's a life or death situation. Yeah, this pandemic might kill all of us. But as we succumb to that, it's starting to be proven now that we didn't stand a chance. The deck was stacked against the American people in terms of the information given to them. And every pocket that tried to push back was labeled, criticized, almost tried to be stamped out of society, canceled. Funny how that canceled word came up in sectors connected with the repression of information or alternate thought. Yeah. And my fear is now that alternate thought becomes either proven or in question of might being correct, because the narrative was being pressed onto the media like that. Does this open up a new era of doubt to the point where we just simply can't discern truth anymore at some point? And again, if that happens, how do we function as a society? There's got to be some bedrocks in there, right? But bedrock beliefs.
But maybe this is the breakdown that has to occur before
transparency,
and a rebuild. because I think that's what it is, right? Because we'll just take the limited scope of the pandemic. Guys like you and I had a big problem with it because it didn't make logical sense. No matter what the media and the government were telling us, like, this doesn't make. How does walking down one direction in an aisle in a grocery store save me or save people? It doesn't. But we were told to do it. Right. We all fucking followed along like idiots. Right. How does, we can't eat inside a restaurant, but if we build inside, outside, we could eat in a restaurant that was safe. Didn't make sense to me, but we all followed along, right? So we had these people, guys like you and I, that just were critical thinkers. It's like, this doesn't make sense.
No.
Now maybe getting things flipped on its head, people will start questioning everything, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe people won't take everything at face value and won't just believe what their side tells them to believe, and they'll actually critically think and come to their own. They may come to the same conclusion, but they do it through the means of thought, not through what is being told to them. And I'm okay with that. If you come to your own opinions,
certainly.
On, like, we were in Detroit for this baseball trip, and my best friend Evan and I, we get into these political debates all the time to the point where, like, we were ready to kill each other. But then we took a step back and, like, started talking, and we realized that we were both kind of saying the same thing, but in different ways. And one perspective on something I had was because I have daughters, and he couldn't understand it because he doesn't have daughters. And he kept saying, well, when have you experienced that? I'm like, well, I haven't experienced it, but it's still wrong. And I was like, and someone in the group said, well, just because I've never experienced murder, that doesn't make murder right.
Correct.
It's just we're trying to start discussion. And we started talking more, than we got into, like, taxes, and we realized, he's liberal, I'm conservative, but we agreed upon a tax
perspective.
But it was interesting because, like, if more people would, that's the first time him and I in a long time have talked without ready to kill each other. But it's like, that's what we need to do. We need to, because we're critically thinking through it and saying, well, here would be a good solution we can both agree upon. Just increase the brackets, increase the width of the tax brackets. Like, raise the tax rate on people that make over $1 million in income. Because the majority of business owners make between $250,000 and $750,000, and the rate goes up, I think, at $400,000. So they get dinged usually in taxes. So on paper, they look like they make a lot of money, but they actually don't because of the taxes. But they're the ones employing all these people.
Right.
Raise that top rate to $1 million and say, okay, that next rate goes up when you hit $1 million. Great solution. Right. And that's what I think we need to get people to do more, is talk. And by having Facebook come out and say, all the shit we told you was kind of bullshit. It was kind of told to us by the government what we could and couldn't tell you.
And we capitulated.
Yes. Like, now maybe people will actually question shit and have discussions, and it won't be so much vitriol in the discussions. It'll actually come to maybe some solutions.
That's an optimistic way. I'm
an optimist.
I hope you're right.
I'm an optimist.
I would love for that to be right.
Something has to change.
Well, I worry it goes the other way, and the ability for the public as a whole to wrap their arms around some truths in their life so they can function, that kind of is in jeopardy now to me.
But I think people need to define their own truth. Like, what is truth to them?
I would take anything at this point. It's just as long as they still can grasp something and hold on to it. If they're in doubt that anything they see or hear, they don't know how to judge what they see or hear. They have that real doubt. If doubt lingers stronger than belief, we're in trouble.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I do think it is concerning that happened. But I'm trying to look at it with some rose-colored glasses, that maybe this is a good thing, that maybe it does cause society to, like, question things a little bit more and actually have discussions, and not take what Fox or CNN or MSNBC or Facebook or Twitter tells me is true. I need to discern my own truth.
Yeah.
That's how you restore trust.
Okay, so let me ask you another hard question. When it comes to news,
okay,
you would like to think that enough people would take enough time to research issues, especially ones they find interesting, and look at both sides, look at all sides, right? And really do some thinking. My question, though, is, are we willing to set enough time aside in our lives? Do we have enough level of care to get to the truth? Are we willing to do in today's society what it takes to find intellectual truth, or is the entertainment component of our life, and I'm including our major news,
okay,
is that taint of that entertainment sugar so great right now that we're just not willing to put enough energy into really find more information to provide ourselves a better understanding of the facts, and that we can feel better about the conclusions we come to. I'm of the belief that we are so more leaning toward the entertainment part of it because it's the taste of candy coupled with a little bit of laziness, and we're more prone to go that direction. And I just don't know if we have it within us as a whole to do enough research on our own to have a more informed decision in society. I don't think we'll do it.
I don't think it's the entertainment thing. I think it's confirmation bias. I think by nature we have confirmation bias. Like, we are looking for information to confirm our bias. Truly, that's what we do. So we say, okay, I believe this. Let me find the information that supports it. Very rarely do people go in and say, I don't know what to believe. I want to do enough information to formulate my own opinion. Everybody has a bias.
So if I find myself more in line with like liberal philosophy, I would watch MSNBC because
it's confirmation
telling
bias.
The things that I want to hear.
Correct.
I feel comfortable because those are my beliefs.
Because if you are liberal and you're truly seeking information, you'll spend a week watching Fox News. You will, right? Because CNN and MSNBC, that's confirmation bias. You're looking for confirmation of your beliefs, right? If you're looking to challenge your beliefs, you listen to the other side. Then you come to some reasonable determination. Maybe your beliefs stay the same. Maybe they shift a little bit. I don't know. But you can't say that you're seeking truth and seeking information if you're not seeking the other side of information. Most people say, well, I watch the news. I listen to everything. If you ask them what they actually listen to or watch, it's confirmation bias is what they're looking for.
Thus the proliferation of, political talk shows.
Correct. Because think about it, like
the gathering of like-minded people.
Right. But think about and ask yourself this question. I would ask myself, when was the last time I had a belief that I got a bunch of information and it was like, oh, I was completely wrong. Like, we all, it's
not often.
It's instinctual to seek confirmation.
The best I think we can hope for in society is that maybe those type of moments are probably a big ask. But what I can hope is that we expand our research enough that over time or slowly we start to have some doubts in some of the rock solid beliefs that we've always held. We start to have some doubts in there, and we start questioning a little bit and digging a little deeper and a little deeper. I'm not saying it has to be instantaneous. Do you know what I mean?
It starts in the school system, though. The school system has to remove bias. A student should never know a teacher's political philosophy. But yet that is rampant in our school system. I believe,
most definitely,
from what I see,
most definitely. Well,
kids should be taught to critically think.
Where do you
start there? Yes,
public sector unions.
I mean, there's a whole different discussion. But I think it starts with kids, right? Our generation's fucked. You're not changing our generation, right? So we got to look lower, and we're looking at 3 generations from now. Like, how do we change that? Because the kids coming up, like, I try and teach my kids to critically think. I don't do a perfect job of it because, I mean, obviously I'm biased, and there's bias in my beliefs. And do I impart them on my kids? Of course I do.
Yeah, it's always a tough thing. It's such a tough thing. It's like I was just thinking about that the other day. Like, my father would impart his beliefs, his political beliefs. Not that we were a big political family, but I knew where both of my parents landed, and it wasn't on the same side.
Yeah,
but I knew, and that kind of helped me form what I thought was real in the world.
Because I don't tell them you have to believe this. Right. I just talk about what I believe, and they tend to that makes sense. But they haven't been out in the world long enough to know does it make sense,
and they haven't had their own experience yet.
Because they may get to their 20s. My girls may get to their 20s and challenge me and say, "Oh," and I may say, "Okay," like just moments ago, where I said, what you said before, I disagree with you vehemently, but now knowing what happens, like, I can see a point to that, and maybe that makes sense to
me. The irony of that whole thing was that this is how crazy, and this is why podcasting's been so healthy, I think, in general, but definitely for me. I had that belief that Facebook was too big and too influential in society in general. We talked about it, and I started walking my own beliefs back. I'm like, no, because it's free enterprise. The government doesn't have a right. So here you are
Right.
You are questioning your belief on it.
Yeah.
But I, for the past 2 years, 3 years, have been questioning my belief. And you see what I mean? But all of that is healthy. Although it seems like a ball of confusion. But by sitting at this table with other people interested in that's the kind of stuff you flesh out. I would like to think that more Americans would do this on their own.
Yeah, you would think.
You know?
Because I do believe, and I've said this a million times on this show and on other shows, that I think we all agree on about 80% of shit. Mm-hmm. We really do. When you think about it, it's always the fringe issues that cause the biggest problem in society.
Oh, yeah.
We all want to be left alone. I want to pay my fair share in tax. I don't want to pay more than I have to. I don't want to pay for dumb shit. I don't want to be told what to believe and what not to believe, but I don't want to tell you what to believe or not to believe. Yeah. Like most people agree with that shit.
Do you think that the reason our news is the way it is and why it does play to our confirmation biases and why it does to separate and create a team atmosphere and all that stuff? Do you think it's because on the face of it, news media learned over the years that our product, which is basically talking about society, in and of itself is so boring to the average human.
Yeah.
That we need to put a dress and lipstick and fancy shoes on it and parade it out there in a fancy car to grab attention and then craft it like a Hollywood script.
When news became cable and capitalism is when it changed. Because news used to be public broadcasting. Right,
like, pretty much. It's like a public service almost.
Then when you have like the Foxes and the CNNs of the world, it's like, okay, we're a big business. We need to make money. How do we make money? We sell advertising. How do we sell advertising? We get eyeballs to watch the news. How do we get eyeballs to watch the news? We have to sensationalize the news.
Yeah,
that's really what it is. If you look at it historically, news was what is this? What does it even stand for? Is it like something entertainment, weather, and sports?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Maybe news, or newsworthy entertainment, or noteworthy entertainment. I can't remember but it's an acronym for something, right? That's really what it was, and it was public broadcast. Yeah. And then we get these cable stations that say, "Hey, we're going to start our own cable news network."
I think we talked about it earlier. Like I've read a couple essays a dozen years ago, I think, but it talked about people look back to like tabloid shows that then incorporated news elements like A Current Affair and Inside Edition in the late 80s.
I forgot about
those two. Yeah. People kind of go back to that. In the article that I read, this it was a New York Times article, it was fantastic. It said no, it goes back to 60 Minutes, which was CBS's first news magazine show, and it was 75 or 74 with Morley Safer and Harry Reasoner, and that was the first time that long interviews. You could see a sense of spin coming from a more liberal field of journalism. You could see it starting again in there. Then 2020 came in from ABC to counter that. And those two ran up until the mid 80s, and there was Dateline. So then all of a sudden you had those three major networks, each having their own premier news magazine shows. So it started there. And then it just went off the rails once cable started to proliferate. And you had talk shows, but you had an Inside Edition and Current Affair. And the popularity of those really poorly produced shows, but the popularity of them probably showed the industry. If we take real life events, I mean, it was the ultimate, in hindsight, it's really, quite frankly, in my humble opinion, why entertainment as a whole, the quality of overall acting as a whole in the past 30, 40 years has suffered. The great actors are 45 and 50 years old and back, the true actors in their craft, because the industry started to just simply emulate life.
Yeah.
And create narratives and theater from real life.
Yeah. The reality TV show.
Absolutely right. And you just didn't need that quality of actors because the scripting was easy. And now here we are today where you can go on Fox or CNN and see their own productions. I don't know whether they're movies, but they're long form documentaries. And it's the news houses that are creating their own documentary series on their cable stations, on their streaming stations.
Yeah.
I mean, they are full blown entertainment companies. They're not here to give you the news.
And even when they do these long form interviews, the editing, they can make whatever they want. And that's what we don't get. Like and that's where it's frustrating, right? And that's why, again, I do think maybe this is a good thing. Maybe it'll get people to question everything. and start looking at things for themselves. They're taking it at face value. Because I think there's too much shit out there that's just, the news had so much power and just the way they can edit things and spin things. Now you're looking at Facebook and what the government is telling them to do. It is one of those things that's concerning, but I truly hope it's a catalyst for critical thought. That's what it needs to be. We have to take this country forward in the right direction. We cannot just take everything at face value anymore. It's like, again, not to get into the whole gender debate, but when we start telling people that you can be whatever you want, and that's just, at least question it. Why? How? When did this happen? How can I identify as whatever I want? Like, just give me the reasoning. Like, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying we've just taken things at face value. Like, again, like Canada, the power lifter, the male power lifter, who, because Canada doesn't question anything when it comes to gender identity, he identified as a female for one day in a powerlifting meet and shattered every record possible just to prove a fucking point. And like, that's something we should question. Like, why are you doing this, dude? Like, but we need to get to a point where we can question things without the fear of retribution or revenge. I feel like that's where we get, like, people are so afraid to speak up now because of what the masses will say, because we created we've created this narrative that, like, if you don't agree with what we say is, then you are a terrible human being and you want to hurt people and you want to kill people and you don't care about feelings. That's not the case. It's just, I'm a curious person. I'm going to question everything. There's not a day in my life that goes by where I don't question something someone has said to me.
Sure. It's healthy. I mean,
right. But we tell people that you can't question that. It just is. Why?
Well, what's dangerous is we tell younger people, and we end up telling a lot of people that have weak constitutions to just capitulate. They find it easier to capitulate, whether it's a fear-based belief structure or a lazy belief structure, whatever it is. They just capitulate.
Yeah.
And that we can't have a nation full of that mentality.
No, we need to become a strong nation again. We need to be strong-minded, strong-willed, and we can feel, but feelings should not dictate our actions.
Yeah. The priority between feelings and facts have been flipped on their head the past couple of years, and so all this change, like it came out of the pandemic. Do you think do you think it is simply a byproduct of scaring the bejesus out of the public and then watching what happens?
You mean what happened during the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean the volatile nature of our society since 2020, the flipping of logic in many different areas. We don't have to get into the weeds, but you know what I'm referring to. Just the flipping of things that would never have made sense to the average person pre-2020.
Yeah, I think there were
all of a sudden been legitimized. Yeah,
there were a lot of things that were done to, in my mind, again, no factual basis, just intuition. Let's see how far they'll go. Let's see what people will actually believe, how far we can push this. Because it just never made sense. They kept going farther and farther and farther. So it's like, I felt like it was this experiment of like, let's see how afraid we can make people and what we can get them to actually do or not do. We locked ourselves in our homes when we know being outside is one of the healthiest places to be. Your feet on the earth, your face in the sun, breathing fresh air. I fucking locked myself in a house like an idiot, like losing my mind in my basement, losing my mind for a month and a half, 2 months. And we all took it like at face value. Yeah, I guess this is bad. We should not go outside. Meanwhile, was there just like viruses floating around in the air? No, that's never happened in our lifetime. Never will happen in our lifetime. But we were told, stay inside. We had ordered by the government, stay inside. Australia was putting people in fucking jail if they were outside. That's where the world went. And I think everybody in power got on board and said, they're complying. What else can we get them to comply? Because it went from like, we're gonna stay shut for what, a couple weeks, 2 weeks to
flatten the curve.
Then it was fucking 2 years. It's like, you need one mask. Then it's 2 masks. Then you should probably wear goggles, maybe a face shield, maybe a fucking bubble. Put saran wrap all over your face. Like, I don't fucking know. But this is what we did. They just kept pushing it. pushing it, and we just complied. Like, huh?
So was it an opportunity for the very powerful in our society to take advantage of something that happened for that reason, or do you think it even goes deeper than that? Not that you have to have all the answers, but I mean, do you ever think that everything will get unwound at some point in time? And do you think there's a possibility?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's a possibility that it gets all unwound to a point and
no,
that it ends up being an intentional act?
So two different questions there, right? Do I think it'll be unwound? Probably not. Do I think it was an intentional act? I think a lot of it was intentional. It was the biggest wealth transfer in our lifetime. Like, think about how much wealth transfer, how much money people made during the pandemic, trading stocks, like insane amounts of money.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely the biggest wealth transfer, and people in power, I believe, and again, this is purely my speculative nature, that they knew what they were doing and they wanted to see how far they could go, because the next time they know how far they can go. Because that won't be the last time something like that happens. Maybe in our lifetime, it'll be the last time we see it, but you never know. They know what they can do to us now. Because you think about it, 70% of us were like, yep, I agree. I believe you. I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do. People were washing their fucking groceries. Like, getting their groceries, bringing them in the house, and Lysoling them. That's one thing I didn't do, but I know people that did. And I was like, oh, maybe that makes sense. I locked myself in a house, dude. Me. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I had a couple days early on that I was like really questioning every little aspect of my daily behavior.
Yes.
And then I started going outside on a regular basis and saw people hiding behind trees on walking trails and all that.
That's what I dealt with.
That's when I realized that I am not going to be one of those people. And I started to try to shake my head and shake myself out of it a little bit. But yeah. I have deep-rooted suspicion on the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one of these people that believe that there's only 2 or 3 families controlling the world. I don't believe that's what's going on. But I do believe it's possible that the Chinese government weaponized this intentionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't see the advantage of them setting it upon the entire world. I think,
right.
But I think it was a weapon and it got loose.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, the amount of what appeared to be to me as a citizen, the amount of almost instant response to it. Not that they were good responses, but there was there was always these instant ideas that were already formulated and ready to be delivered to the public, whether it was the masking, whether it was the directional walking. Yep. Yeah, it was almost, if you step back and looked at it, it almost looked planned.
Oh, I mean, the pandemic, as they called it, right? I mean, and again, not being a conspiracy theorist, but this is just logic looking back. It's like, look, it was something, right? People got sick and people died. I get that, right? But I think the bigger picture of this was some things just didn't make sense to me. Just really didn't. It didn't add up in my head.
Are we not going to know the truth because the public can't handle the truth?
I think that's part of it, yeah. I think there's a lot of things we're not told as the public for the fear of what would happen if we found out about it. 1, would there be an uprising? 2, would people just lose their minds and then we can't get them to believe anything anymore?
Yeah, that's always been the UFO argument. If they came down, and I mean, the government somewhat in 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21 started to seep information that they have things that they can't explain, but they haven't come out and said, here is Herbie, the Martian. He came here in 1987. We've had him under wraps.
Yeah.
He's 4 foot tall and green.
Right.
Here he is. Here's the ship he came in on.
Yeah.
We don't know if he's dead or alive, but it's still there. I mean, if they did that, something that could we handle it?
I mean, I think a lot of people would lose their minds. It would call into question everything. And it's funny,
that's what they're afraid of.
Yeah, and I feel like it's funny how they brought it all out during the pandemic. It's like, oh, we have a pandemic.
Of course.
Oh, by the way, we also have UFOs, in case you're wondering.
Let's seep that out.
People are like, I don't give a fuck about UFOs. When is this pandemic over? Like, when can I go to a bar? Like, they timed it perfectly. They knew they could just slide it out there because people were concerned about getting back to normal life. I mean, we were watching the fucking Tiger King.
Yeah, that became our norm.
The Tiger King became our norm. I wasted hours watching.
Well, the funny part about that is that was so there was a prime example of a really subpar, very average, almost like a made-for-TV series that grabbed the attention because it was the time. It was all timing. It was it was a moment in time where we were all inside, and it became the national discussion. But it was not a quality. It was supposed to be, you know,
it wasn't quality.
But it wasn't remotely even the way it was filmed. The whole production was not quality.
It was so bad. It was so bad.
And it's like, but that became our desperate way to connect in some way. Our topic, right?
That is like a flag post of the pandemic. Like if you look back on it, like that's one of those things that will always stand out. Like everybody watched the Tiger King. Who did Carol Baskin kill her husband? Like
we still don't know that.
Still don't know. We still don't know. But that's the thing. Like when you look back and coming back to your point on trust, right? I think I think we should never trust the government completely. I think we should always question, especially when you have career politicians. This is why I believe in term limits. We need term limits. If you have someone that's been in politics 30 years and has made a shit ton of money and is super wealthy, I don't trust this thing they do or say. They're not a public servant. They're a self-servant. They went into a job that's a public servant that doesn't pay that much. It pays decent, but not so much you can have a private plane or multiple homes in the Hamptons.
So okay, let's change course a little bit since you brought that up. Mm-hmm. Why is it that none of these people ever get investigated? Like, is anybody in the FBI, any investigator in the FBI, mm-hmm. after Nancy Pelosi retires, or just pick anyone you want, any of these, if you unwind the income mm-hmm. based upon the assets, mm-hmm. it's the biggest red flag imaginable.
Self-preservation
under the guise of public trust.
Self-preservation. The FBI agent's not going to go investigate them because they lose their job. And when you think about it, like they're all in cahoots.
So it's a fraternity then.
I mean, do you think it's not?
Well, when I see the vitriol against Trump over the past, 5, 6, 7 years, you start to say, well, maybe it isn't. They're not.
No, it is, because here's why. Most of the people go into politics to make money. Trump already had money. Mm-hmm. That's why he was such an outsider. That's why he wasn't part of the fraternity, because they were afraid that he's going to cut the gravy train. Like, think about it.
Yeah.
Trump comes in, burns everything down. All these people are ass out. What are they going to do now? Go be consultants? Go be lobbyists? Maybe. Not all of them.
Yeah.
This was their gravy train. You become a politician, you're in the Senate, you're in Congress, you're getting paid tens of thousands of dollars to speak and to show up places. They're set for life unless you get exposed. And their biggest fear, in my opinion, was Trump coming in and exposing them, because he doesn't need a dime from anybody. Mm-hmm. He really doesn't when you think about it. He needs no money from anybody. So he was outside of the fraternity. He was like the kid in college that didn't join a fraternity that may burn the building down.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I believe the biggest fear of him was. He didn't need what they all needed for why they got into politics.
Do you think if there was a set of laws in place mm-hmm. that was passed, and again, this is just a parallel universe.
Okay.
Like next week, we passed a set of laws that really deeply restricted the movement and the ability for anyone serving in a federal position to gain financially in any capacity during their term. If we pass that,
okay,
do you think that we would end up with better people, or do you think that we would end up with worse people?
Worse. Look, here's the thing. Do I think politicians should be able to make money? Yeah. Do I think they should be able to use insider information that's not known to the public to make money? No.
But how is that even evaluated?
There's rule 10B. What is it? 10B5. There's a lot of SEC rules that deal with it, right? But no one's looking at it.
No, obviously not.
Right. But that's where they're making their money from. It's insider trading. They have information on laws that are coming down that will impact. But I think do I think politicians should be able to make money? Yes, because if you're choosing a life of public service,
that's the problem.
You should be able. Well, what do you mean?
That's the absolute problem.
Okay,
there should be no life of public.
Well,
service.
Right, yes, okay, yes. Take the word out, but if you choose the path of public service for the time you're on it, which you're giving up the opportunities elsewhere, you should be able to. Because look, if I ever get into politics, I want to be able to make money to get to speak or write a book. Like, I'm not doing it for that, right? If I go into politics, it's because I truly care and want to make a change. But if I'm also offered a book deal for $1 million, I want to be able to fucking take the $1 million and write a book.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the book opportunity. I have a problem with stock trading.
Well, that's a problem with different issue. They're privy to insider information that is going to directly impact these companies, right? So they make trades based upon that. If they know a law is coming down that's going to increase the cost of, just say, platinum that goes into chip makers, well, they know that those chip makers are going to go down, and they can short the stocks. And that's what happens, right? They short the people. Like, oh, they don't do it. They don't do grandiose amounts.
Yeah,
it's enough to fly under the radar. 20 grand here, 50 grand there, but over time it adds up. And you're in politics for 30 years. You make a lot of those trades. You're sitting on millions and tens of millions of dollars.
Right.
That's the issue.
Yeah. Yeah. It just it's a really interesting system. Still the best system ever created.
Yeah, I don't want to be anywhere else.
For governance, not at all. But I think the way we've let the temptation of greed get too infiltrated within our system.
Okay.
We've not managed it well. As a people, we've not managed it. No, we haven't. I don't think we've put enough checks and balances in there. I don't think in regards to keeping honest people honest when they go in.
But again, okay, I'm going to lawyer you now. Define honest and define honest people. Because it's honest relative.
Yeah, that's a generality. But the point is the system set up with too many temptation is the wrong word to use. I want to use that word in the worst way, but
opportunities.
Opportunity is a good word. Yeah, there's too many precedents of people taking advantage of the system and keep pushing the boundaries and pushing the boundaries. And if the people don't hold those folks accountable, us the people, and how do we do that collectively? I don't know. I mean,
don't vote for them.
I guess
we're our own fools.
I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't. If we're not willing to vote somebody out, don't complain about what they do in office.
Oh, most definitely.
You know, if we're not willing to vote somebody in that wants term limits and get them through, don't bitch about term. That's why term limits are the solution in my mind. I don't sit there and bitch about it because I can't change it. You know, but to me, that's a big solution, an easy solution. Grandfather yourselves in. Hey, we're going to put in term limits, but we can stay here as long as we keep getting reelected. But once we're out, we're out.
Yeah, but anyone new coming in, starting on this
day, they have term limits. It's an easy solution to that problem, and to me, that solves a lot bigger of the problems.
It would be so healthy just to have that constant influx of new blood, new thought, new ideas, and and then yes, and to help put down corruption. It won't eliminate corruption, but it would help reduce the opportunities for it. I think, right?
100%. I mean, 100%. I think people will definitely could weed out corruption. I think. Can you ever eliminate corruption completely from government? No. No, I don't think you can at all.
No. Well, let me ask you this, and we'll close it down. What is your biggest fear, if you have one, in regards to what may happen beyond the winner and the loser? Or do you have any big fears about how America is going to respond in November, or the day after the election, or the week after the election, or 2, 3, 4 months after the election? Do you have any fear that there's going to be problems?
Yes. But I hope that whichever side wins, the other side shows some grace, because that's the start of getting this country back. If Trump loses or Harris loses and they both call foul, we're never get. That's 3 elections in a row.
You know that's going to happen, right?
But I'm saying, but I think if you're asking me what I want and what this country needs, is for the loser to lose graciously and gracefully, and provide an open hand and a warm heart to the winner.
Yeah.
That's how we get back to what this country was founded on. We cannot keep attacking. Now, again, the other problem I have is I don't want the Democrats to ever say anything about Trump's trying to rid this country of democracy, because they just did it by putting their own candidate without an election.
Yeah,
that's not democracy.
There's been, this has been, to me, a very horrific 60 days.
You think?
Between the assassination attempt, which we just accept and move right on like it didn't even happen, and then you have the president of the United States, the sitting president of the United States, admitting that he is not up to running again,
right?
But somehow he's up to finishing the job,
which makes no sense.
And since that time, he has been. I don't know when's the last time he's been on public camera. There's been no press. There's no press conferences. No. There's coupled with the anointing of an unelected, candidate who has, to this point, in what appears to be how it's going to be until election day, no public proclamations, no press conferences, no policy discussions, nothing.
No, and half tax policy
and half the public seems to be okay with voting for someone that they don't know what their stated philosophy is, policy, what they're thinking, what they're really thinking. There's been no effort to explain that to the public,
because a lot of
people are okay with that.
Because a lot of them, they don't care, because it's not a vote for her, it's a vote against him. It's a not Trump vote. So we don't really give a shit what Harris's policies are, because they're not Trump's. That's the biggest. Yeah. That's the biggest thing that's happened, in my opinion.
And it's funny too, because it really puts. I was thinking about this today. I was driving home. This current situation right now on this date, the 27th of August.
Okay,
it really puts the Democratic voter in an extremely difficult position, a very difficult juxtaposition, like no other time in our history.
Yeah.
Meaning that they have to think that how their life is right now, what they pay, the inflation, everything that goes on with us, it's okay. And I'm okay with letting the same people do that. And the person that's going to represent my point of view is not even stating the policies. They have to be okay with that. And I know a lot. I can guarantee, I know this in my heart of hearts. I believe it to be true. A lot of them are not. They're hurting. It's painful. But
it's not Trump.
The illogic of the entire thing is really baffling to me.
It's been baffling.
It's the call to personality over everything else.
Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly what it is. 1,000%.
It bad choice of words, but it's I won't use Trump. It supersedes the personality of the candidate, supersedes every other factor, even when it's hurting your life.
Exactly
and
right.
Your family's life.
It's exactly right. And I just want people, when they go to vote in November, like, ask themselves, do they want more of the same? Do you want more of the same, or do you want to change?
It's the personality over everything, and it ties into it ties into our entertainment and our cult of celebrity and our high opinion of and worth of our feelings over everything else. It just plays right into that. They're running on a campaign of joy. They're running on a campaign of vibes.
Right.
At the forefront of what's important. The fucking vibes.
No, the economy is important. Inflation's important. Interest rates coming down is important. Not the fucking vibes. They're trying to get to the young votes. But again, what I think they're miscalculating is how inauthentic she is. And people see through her. That's the miscalculation, in my opinion. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I just, what kind of, like, those who like to talk to Trump supporters say, what kind of color glasses do you wear every day, imagining this guy and the flaws and the extramarital affair and all the stuff that he does, the lies and the embellishment, all that stuff. What kind of rose-colored glasses are you wearing where all of a sudden he is a true conservative? He's not a true conservative. All that, okay, you got all that there. But in the same fact, you've got all these people walking around with rose-colored glasses.
Right.
looking at their current life and their wallets.
Yeah.
And everything around them is hurting them economically, socially, crime. Yeah. And you have to wear rose-colored glasses to believe that all of that is okay.
Yeah.
Because I have a better feeling about the vibe of this person.
They're running off feelings. And that's not going to work.
It's incredible, man.
That's not going to work. In my opinion.
Incredible.
That's where you are in this country. We're stuck on a feelings. I'm hooked on a feeling.
Hooked on a feeling.
Yeah, yes, we are.
Let's hope it's a good one, man. It's gonna be difficult. All right, partner. We're getting close. I think it's it's just 70 days.
I don't even know, dude. I don't even know.
It's getting close. It's gonna be here before you know it.
Probably about 70 days. You're right.
Let's just hope no violence, no uprisings, no assassinations.
Whoever wins, wins. Whoever wins. Let's just move.
Yeah.
Let's just do that. So
we'll see.
We shall.
All right. Until next week. We're out.